Hey guys, this is your inspirational nurse, and today's video is how to be a Christian in a healthcare system. In this healthcare system. This healthcare system, I say. Now, for those who have similar backgrounds or spiritual beliefs and not quite sure on how this system will influence your spiritual beliefs and how will it influence your walk, your faith walk, your belief in God, for those who are believers, stay tuned to this video and keep watching. Now, for those who don't know, my spiritual journey started when I was a little bit younger. I would say close to my teen years, guys. Um, wasn't quite sure my direction, was lost in the beginning, didn't know my purpose, my identity, didn't even know I'm supposed to be in healthcare, guys. God literally gave me a vision and I saw myself in a white coat. Can you believe that? Like for me, guys, I always wanted to be either a provider, a MD, which I went that route initially. I wanted to be a doctor, but once I got to Rutgers University, guys, I got accepted. I was so excited because they actually have their own doctor school and they have their PA programs and all that on campuses. So you don't even have to apply outside of that university, which I love Rutgers for that. The tuition at the time was like $400,000. And I remember when I was going through the admission process that a lot of the workers were asking me about, did I want to do PA because it was a little bit cheaper. For those who do not know what PA is, it's a physician assistant. Wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do that. They asked me if I wanted to be the boss or have a boss. And I was like, of course I want to be the boss. And when I was sitting in those classes, guys, I had to take physics, right? So now I'm sitting in physics and law. I don't even know what my teacher was talking about, y'all, with all these different things with these numbers. Physics got a lot to do with math. Math is in a lot of things, but it was extreme. And I remember sitting in the back of the university class. It was like a class of 500 students. It was really huge university. And I was just feeling so lost. I don't know if I'm going the right direction. Now, guys, I was the type of girl who changed her major like 50 times until God literally showed me being in this white coat and it said RN. Now, at the time, guys, I had no clue on what RN, LPN, nurse is, right? The whole nursing field, healthcare field. No clue. I just know that I love to help people. Didn't know my direction in the beginning. And this is to inspire people on here that maybe don't know their direction, but you know that you like to help people. It's just something in you that desires you to help someone else. If that's you, then this video is just for you. I started out lost, y'all. I started out not having a direction. I came from a home that wasn't had a strong education background. So a lot of the pressure was on me. And then I couldn't afford it, guys. My mom was a single mother. We were poor, y'all. We had nothing. And I remember always desiring to go to college. It was like my dream. You know how some girls dream of the wedding? I was dreaming of college, y'all. I could not wait for my 4-year experience, which my experience didn't even go that way, the way I desired. But I wanted to go in college. I knew that meant independence. I knew that meant there was a new chapter. I knew that the more knowledge that I gained, the more I can understand the world that's around me and why things are the way they are, right? We also have a lot of questions in the back of our mind of why things are the way they are, what is going on, why I'm going through all of this at such a young age, right? And like I said, my walk into healthcare started when God directed me the opposite way and was like, girl, you are a nurse. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because nurses is all soft and butterflies. And I was a thug back in the day. So I was so lost, not a thug, but like I had a strong personality and wasn't quite sure, like me being a nurse. Like I did not see myself. And I thought nursing was like that because they portray it to be like, you taking care of your patients and they loving back on you and all these things. And that's how it was portrayed to me. That was my perception of what nursing is. And now that I'm in nursing for 8 years, oh my God, you have to be strong-minded and a strong-willing and not easily influenced, and just so much come with just being a nurse. And for me, nursing, I realized, was something that God wanted me to walk into. That actually became my ministry, y'all. It's deeper than I thought. I'm thinking it's just a job thing, right? I need a job. I want a profession. I want a career where I can grow. I always wanted a career. I never wanted like a regular job. And my husband was the same way, y'all. We got married young, but we both desired careers that we can be proud of and that we can grow, retire, and all those things. And we were so excited. We had so much desire to do that. So walking into nursing, guys, I definitely had a perception change. I was more humble once I started to explore what I had to do, guys. Fear started to creep in when I realized how many chemistry classes, micro and math classes, and psychology classes, and sociology. I was like, oh my God, it was so intimidating. Coming from a household that didn't have a lot of education background, it was very, very intimidating. But it was just something in me that kept desiring me to press forward and move forward and like face those fears and challenges that I might have felt that no one knew about. And I remember taking these classes, and I tried to rush the process, and I'll be guilty to say I've done that. I even like scheduled the hardest classes on the on the summer breaks where you only have 4 weeks, like micro. And I remember people like, "What? Are you crazy?" And I remember just like, I'm like, God showed me. So why is it? I felt like the process wasn't moving as fast as I thought it was. So again, I needed to make sure I was asking for clarity and prayer and like direction, because healthcare is huge, y'all. It's so big of a influence on the world, right? Because everybody needs healthcare, and your health is important. Your well-being, your train of thought, everything about you health wise have to be up to par for you to even work and do anything, right? So I didn't know how big this thing was that God had, but God had a plan for my career, my life, and I was so excited. But being a Christian in this healthcare system was extremely hard. It came with a lot of battles, scars and wounds, because sometimes you go in on a unit and you bring so much light and energy into that unit. Once I became a nurse, which, I can hear people like not really in my corner during me studying and taking these tests, and I'm trying to like tell my family like I'm not talking to you for a little bit because I'm focusing on trying to pass these tests. Everybody know how hard nursing tests is and nursing exams are. And I remember hearing God's voice one day that told me, no matter how hard I study, that I still was going to be a nurse. I mean, I would study from 7 a.m. to when the sun goes down, and I don't move. I sit in the same spot, y'all. That's when I started really getting into my YouTube videos and start, using that as a platform to help, like to create a journal basically as I was going along, which I love that I can go back and see where I was at and where I'm at now. But it was so many challenges. It was so hard to discuss this whole thing with your family members and friends, because I even lost friends during this journey because they was like, oh, all you talk about is nursing and da da da. And I was just like, well, that is my life now. Like, all I'm doing is eating nursing words and medical terminology. I'm learning the body parts every single day. Nursing is a 24-hour thing, right? And I'm trying to do this so I can pass my boards. And it's just like, some people didn't have understanding. There was a lot of jealousy and all of this. Me still figuring out what I am and why God chose me to be a nurse. And oh my God, when I learned the characteristics of a nurse and what it takes to be one, I fit in that perfectly, like a Cinderella shoe. And I'm so proud of where I am in my career, regardless of my falls, regardless of my failures, regardless of my victories. I'm so excited to just be a nurse, because I know what it takes to be one. Like the hard work, the studying, the classes, the failures, the passing tests again, taking all these things again. And God, I started out, guys, I'm glad that I did all my prerequisites first before I even went into nursing school. I did not want to be a nursing student with taking micro and all these heavy classes with my nursing classes. So I was happy, but I also was a military spouse with no support, with little kids, and still wanted to go to school. It became so challenging. So I remember getting a degree in something else in the beginning for education because I love to teach. And then kind of like when I had an opportunity, my husband was deployed, trying to get classes done and before we move again, because we moved like every 2 to 3 years. It was so challenging. And it's to fast forward it, y'all. So this video ain't super long, but when you are a nurse, just be proud of that, because there's so many people out there desiring to be in your shoes, to have that RN or LPN or whatever behind your name in this healthcare field. We are part of history. We are part of the goods and the bads of this healthcare system. We are an influence into the system, regardless of the situation. You can't always look at every situation as a negative thing, because God uses the negative and he turns it into something powerful. And sometimes I went to church Sunday and I learned that if I haven't gone through a lot of these things, y'all wouldn't even know a lot of these things. And when I'm teaching y'all and I'm giving y'all tips and strategies on things, this is real life things I went through, like I've been through, and I'm sharing it with y'all so y'all don't have to go through. That is powerful. And someone was like, well, if you haven't gone through, how can you relate with them? You know, and it's so crazy. But fast forward it, y'all. I made it. I became an LPN. I worked my butt off because they didn't want to give me an LPN because I was already working on my RN, but my husband was deployed and only had a year. So I went back and I went and was like, I just need a license. And I love my LPN license, y'all. I worked 4 years as the LPN, learned so much, was doing RN work, wasn't getting RN pay, but I was doing RN work already, admissions, discharges, all of it in different settings. And I loved it. I loved it. I didn't want to become an RN because RN was so intimidating, y'all. Everybody was talking about it as an intimidating thing and not as a goal that's achievable, right? Because sometimes we need to talk differently. We need to say this is achievable. Like, it sounds intimidating, but it's achievable, right? And everybody's journey is different. So don't put a timeline on your journey or like to tell God like it has to happen now, because there's a reason why there's a hole or a block from you starting something, because maybe God has something better. And let me tell you why. God had told me when my husband was his last deployment, he had warned me in the spirit that my husband was going to be harmed or dead if he didn't come out of his unit. Now, he was with a rapid deployment unit and he goes every year. He goes overseas. Now, my husband listened, but he was like, where are we going to go? We don't have no money to move. We're all the way, y'all, and down south, deep in the south. And I'm like, I kept hearing God tell me Virginia. And I was like, he was like, Virginia? Like, why we can't go back home? And I'm like, I don't know. But I'm hearing God say, Virginia, you coming with me or not? And sure enough, we moved to Virginia with nothing, starting over, not knowing why we was here, y'all. And it was a hard start. We struggled trying to find work, trying to find somewhere to live, trying to pay these. I mean, it was a struggle, but God had a plan. Like, all my blessings that I've been desiring and praying for, hoping for, all happened in Virginia. So when God is pulling you from a different location to another, pray on clarification and confirmation and move. Don't question him, because he's going to equip you with what you need. You just don't know it yet. And when I got here, guys, not even a few weeks of working here, I was working overnight, getting off a shift. I was pumping gas, true story. And I don't know if it was an angel or what, but this lady pulled me over. She was driving a pickup truck and she was smiling and waving at me. And I didn't know anybody. I just got here. And she was like, I got a word for you. So I'm like, oh, Lord. And she told me my whole life. She told me about my husband. She told me I needed to go back to school. It was so urgent from God. He wanted me to go back to RN school like now. Mind you, I'm thinking logically, like, I can't afford to go to RN school. I barely paid for my LPN, which I paid out of pocket, y'all, like almost $1,000 a month. So I had no debt off my LPN, but my RN was more expensive. I was nervous. I didn't have the money. And she kept saying, you're not understanding. God needs you to go to school. And I kept saying, I can't afford it. So I got it. And from that day, I remember telling my husband, and he was like excited, but then he was nervous because we were all struggling already. And he was just like, I don't understand how we're going to pay for all of this. And I'm like, I don't know. But she told me I need to go back to school. So I'm applying to schools. There's a lot of schools that I did not like. There was one that was like new RN program. They didn't barely had anything in their skills lab, and they was just setting up. I'm like, I'm not seeing much growth from here. I need something like fast. I felt like I needed, it was an urgency in my spirit to get my RN fast. So I remember going to the school that I wound up going to and applying. And this time, because I applied before, but I didn't get it. Like I didn't pass the test to get in that T's 5 exam. I missed it by a point. And it was just like so discouraging. And this time it was so different. The lady was like, "You're already in the program. I need your paperwork. Where's your paperwork?" And I'm like, "My paperwork? I just got here. I'm just going to tour the school. I'm trying to apply." She was like, "You're already in the program. Where's your paperwork?" Da, da, da. And at the time, y'all, I was just working as a LP and assistant living. That was it. Nothing big, I was like, okay, I always keep my paperwork in my car. I have a love book I call it my love book, but it's full of all my stuff. And I was like, I got it in my car. So she was like, "Oh, you ready to take the test?" So I'm like, I took the test and I didn't pass. And she looked for my name, could not find my name. God gave me a clean record as if I never took that exam. So I took it and she asked me how did I feel. And I felt okay. And girl, I missed it by a point, and I was so, disappointed in myself for missing the math by 1 point. She said, "I want you to come back for tomorrow. I have something for you that's free." And it's a tutor. She's really good. So I didn't want to come back. I felt disappointed. I'm like, I'm never getting in this RN program. I come back the next day. I didn't even tell my husband where I was at, y'all. I came back. The tutor, I was late. She was like, "Come here, Miss Fleming." She said, "Show me how did you do this math problem." I showed her on paper. I busted down old school, y'all. She was like, "That's your problem. You can have a calculator now." Now, in LPN school, we was not allowed to have a calculator. So that's where I got that from. And she was like, "Okay, now go take your test." And I was like, "No, I can't go take my test. I didn't even study." Like, it was like nothing I was saying. They was listening. And they just kept telling me what to do. And I kept telling them, like, I didn't study. Like, I didn't even get to go home and study. So I went downstairs, took the test anyway. I was the only one in the room. I was in the building, the last one to leave this building. And I walked out that door. The lady that was there in the beginning that told me to get my paperwork ready, she was like, "Well, how did you feel about it?" I was like, "I don't know." They was asking me about planets and rocks and stuff. If I threw a rock, what the world? I don't know. I don't remember rocks since 8th grade. I like science, but she was like, "Well, you passed with flying colors." I said, "There's no way." When I tell you, God is an amazing God. He can do things, miracles, y'all. Turn your situation around, even when you don't have the money, even when you think you're not smart enough. He's like pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. Listen to the Holy Spirit when he's telling you to do something, especially in healthcare. And from the next weekend, y'all, that's not even the bliss. The next weekend, guys, I remember going to this church, which I thought was something else, like a food pantry or something, because we were struggling. The army messed up my husband's check. It was like a big thing. And we thought it was just something else, and it was a church, and they gave us, like, put some money in our hands, told us to go food shopping. They pray for us. Don't even know us, y'all. These are strangers. Now I go to that church, but they were strangers to us. And that Sunday, they had a visiting pastor, and I went up for prayer for about the Bible or something, like to how to minister better or something like that, I remember. And the guy was like, "Everybody stop." He was like, "Young lady, get up here." So I'm like, head down, because I'm so embarrassed. And I'm a very private person, but I'm still extrovert. I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, I was so embarrassed going up there, y'all. And I remember he held my hand and he looked at me in my eyes and he said, "You're going to be smarter than your teachers. You're supposed to take a test, right?" And I was like, and this is right before all that happened with the test, me taking the test, me passing it. And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You're going to be smarter than your teachers." And he said, "Because you have a heart for people, God is going to pay for your tuition." Now, y'all, my whole church went crazy. The pastor went crazy. He was like, "Daughter." He kept calling me daughter, which was so encouraging because I don't have a dad. But he was like, "Daughter, daughter, did you hear him, daughter?" I'm like, everybody screaming, and I'm still like in shock because I'm like, I'm thinking my RN license is going to be paid for. I wasn't thinking God was going to pay for my associates and my bachelor's degree. So I was like, my face was in shock. Like I couldn't move. He said, and he prayed for a double anointing over me, a double. He said, whatever I have, God told me to pray over you and it's going to be doubled. It was just so much more he was saying. And it was just like, my husband was in shock. We was in shock. My husband was like, actually, it touched him more than it touched me because he felt bad because as a military spouse, I had to sit back and sacrifice my career, going back to school because my husband was deployed every year and sit home with the kids for the first 10 years. So it touched my husband in a way where I don't even know the Holy Spirit was using my husband to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you my education benefits or whatever. And I'm like, what? Because I don't ask my husband for anything. I'm a very independent girl raised by a single mom. So I'm not used to having help or wanting help, or if that makes sense. But I was just like, huh? Like I was in so much shock this whole experience, nursing experience. It was, I couldn't explain it. I can explain it. Like, that's why I said God sees everything. So don't matter the challenges you go through. Don't matter the adversities of people telling you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. If it's your time, God is going to snatch you. He's going to kidnap you. It ain't going to be like you forcing it. Because if you're doing it and God is not doing it, you're going to know the difference. When God is doing it, he's going to come get you. He's going to send his angels and say, go get her, go get him. It's their time. Like, even when us buying this house, y'all, that's a whole other testimony. But my life is full of testimonies because, y'all, I stand firm on God's will, regardless of what happens. Like I felt like I've been treated like Jesus when they beat him, they nailed him to the cross. If I tell you some of the horror stories I experienced in healthcare, you probably sit here and cry, and I'll probably be crying. The harm, the adversities and challenges that came up against me, what people have done. Someone even delayed me from graduating so I can get my bachelor's because they thought I wanted to move up. There's always something the enemy's telling me, like, oh, you're going to do something big. You're going to do something big and something great. And I'm just like, okay, what is it? And the enemy knows that too. So that's why the attacks are so heavy on me, that sometimes people don't understand why I'm by myself, and sometimes I don't want to talk to people. Sometimes I'm not in an encouraging mood, or like it's hard for me to explain my walk, my spiritual walk, my faith, because of all the backlash and all the things that I go through, and something that God asked me to do, right? To be a nurse. All he asked me to do was be a nurse, and all the hell started breaking loose on me. So be careful what you pray for. Be ready to war against something. Your war in this battle, because there's always a spiritual battle that happens. Is like sometimes I come on a unit and there's patients that they know when you're a good spirit, and you come in their room and they're like, oh, you one of the good ones. I remember one of the patients saying that in the hall. We're like, oh, she's one of the good ones, y'all. And I'm like, one of the good ones. But they know. I even had a patient that was she was like, had a mental health patient. She was very, I heard her screaming in the room. I was assigned to the room. Now, my hospital had nowhere to put these patients, which I was always upset about, but that was another story. I go in the room, and it was my patient. I'm observing my patient. She was already on restraints, very angry, very upset. And when I walked in the room, she said, you came here to kill me. And I said, no, ma'am, I didn't come here to kill you. My name is Tia. I'll be taking over. Very professional. And she just kept repeating it. And I just thought, I'm like, what is she talking about? Well, maybe part of that spiritual gift is me being able to slay against the dark side. I'm slaying against the dark side and those types of spirits. And that's why when I go places, I draw that out of them, if that makes sense. Now, all of this, y'all, didn't make sense in the beginning. Now I feel like it's like making sense. And I remember she was getting louder and louder. A lot of doctors were taking their names off her assignment. They didn't want to even work with this patient. I'm like, and I didn't even know at the time the director of the hospital was in the room, because she asked me to go check on my other patients, and I told her no. And I didn't even know who she was. I just knew. I was like, no, this patient is my patient and my responsibility. I'm going to take care of her. And I didn't even know who I was talking to. And because I was like that, she told everybody in the hospital about me, how awesome I was, how I handled the situation. But the thing was, guys, the patients wound up spitting on me. She did not. It was just it was just something else. And the nurses were very upset about it. They didn't like the treatment. It's like I get treated like that, but then God has like angels and things around me that like fight for me. So it's like I don't even have to fight. Like, if that makes sense, that they will say something when something's not right. And I was just like, guys, I just clean my face, whatever. She just spit or whatever. But ever since then, that person that was in the room, that was in charge of the hospital, whatever, higher up, was like so impressed with everything. Like, she was like, you just stayed by her side, you didn't leave. And I was just like, I stayed by her side and leave because those types of patients, to me, is not fair because they don't get treated well. It's like a cycle for mental health patients. They go in, they get in the system, the hospital discharges them, they have nowhere to go, or they want them back at the same facility they was. And it's just like there's like no resources. And I was begging the hospital to open up a psych unit. I even offered to work as on the psych unit if they ever need a psych nurse. Like, I was trying everything to help these patients. I even joined a committee for mental health patients because my mom had a lot of mental health. So I'm used to that type of behavior and those things. And I was just like, I was comfortable with it. But because of the reputation that encounter happened, it caused a lot of politics to when I was trying to move up or to a different floor or desire to do certain things in the hospital. They was trying to hold my application in the system, things of that nature, which I wound up getting a job anyway. And I remember the lady that delayed my project from happening so I couldn't graduate. She was the one that was like shocked. Like, she saw my ID badge and it had like step down ICU on it. She was like, how did you get that job? And I was like, I've been had it a week ago. She was like, oh, see what you're saying? What you think you all at? Like, I don't know. My spirit just make people very nervous. And what I carry is very heavy. And so it comes with a lot of challenges. But I know that God put me in this field for a reason. I love what I do. And as a Christian in this healthcare field, you're going to have a purpose and a reason why you're there. And God got you right there. Even though every day is not like a happy day. Every day is not going to be a happy day. Some days are not good. Some days are better than others. Some days you have victory and you feel really good about yourself. But keep your foundation strong, what you know. I always tell people, when you get discouraged, I even lost jobs behind this. I lost friends behind this. I lost so much behind just doing what God asked me to do. But he still blesses me in this field. There was times I got travel contracts. I don't even know how in the world I got travel contracts. So doors were opening for me. I don't even know how doors was open. I just, would get certain things that other people might have not got that opportunity. And, before I hit 40 or 35, I already purchased my first home, my first luxury car, vacation property, everything. God was doing so much still without me even having the income for it. I didn't even have the income to pay for my own tuition. But people look at me and they think that I'm just some rich girl. I'm like, y'all see money that I don't see? Because like I said, the enemy see things before you can see it sometimes. So you have to make sure you stay in prayer. It's like basically watching the news for the spiritual realm. You watching the news, you keep in tune with what's going on. So you're more equipped to handle your day when the day comes and you're handling your day. You have more energy to fight, more strength. You're in a positive mood. So start your day off, your morning off, with gospel music, with motivational speeches or prayers or whatever you do. I listen to someone that ministers in the morning every day when I wake up. I wake up to someone ministering. It's just comforting to me to do that. And that's every day. That's my routine. And then when I was working as a manager, I would play gospel music sometimes, or, just encouraging things. And people would bring me scriptures, in the facility, just to encourage. I didn't even know they was doing that. They was just like, oh, we was saying things against people that was coming up against you. And like I said, people will always protect you when they know you of God. They already know. You don't have to tell them anything. They just know. So being a Christian in this healthcare field, you definitely have to pray for identity, your purpose. You got to ask for clarification when you don't understand. And maybe the enemy is trying to confuse you on your direction. You need to ask for clarification. And when God is getting ready to manifest something big in your life, all hell is going to break loose. It's going to feel like your world's falling apart. And that's how you know you're closer to your breakthrough. and he's going to do something that is unnatural. When you tell your story to other people, they're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? My family always usually give me that reaction like, what's she talking about now? But they don't understand that a lot of things happen for me unnaturally. So sometimes it's not easy talking to other people about things about God or what God is doing in my life, because, and don't say things too early when it's premature. That's just like when you are pregnant. And I don't know why God has me say this, but when you're pregnant and you're in that pre-stage, and they say those first 8 weeks is the most important weeks of the baby's development and growth and things like that. You want to protect that pre-stage, that first 8 weeks of you getting ready to birth something, because that is essential. That's when the lungs are being developed. That's when certain vital organs are being developed, right? Heartbeat is being developed. So you want to protect yourself in the pre-stage, and don't speak too soon on something, and don't share too much with somebody, because even though you think you're friends with people, they will try to tear you down before you even get started, because you're sharing too much of it's too big for their eyesight. They can't see that how something so unnaturally sounded is going to manifest in reality or life. How you walk in somewhere with no money and come out with something, right? How you go into a job and you come out with something, right? How you, like, they don't understand how is that happening for you. Again, it creates a lot of enemies and creates a lot of jealousy. Even family members will drop off from you because they can sense when something, God is going to do something big. Now, they all don't have to be believers, but people can feel that off of you. I always get, oh, you're going to do something great. And I'm like, okay. I even get that to this day, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'll be prepared for when that great day happened. I'll be excited because there's a lot of work that went behind that great day that people don't always get to see, right? People always see your, hey, whatever face that you put on every day, but they don't see that spiritual battle that you just finished doing, right? Warring for your family, praying for your family from healing, you healing from things that's been happening to you, right? Because there's so many things that happens to you. Some places I go, they try to give me the most. I remember going to one place and they tried to give me the most patients. Everybody had 2. I had 6 patients, and all the nurses were pissed and spoke up like, "Why Tierra got 6? You need to change that." And everybody took a patient from me. I was like, so protection is there. God will always send angels. So don't be afraid. God say, walk with your head up. Don't walk in fear. God doesn't want us to be weak in this healthcare field. We have to be strong, and we have to stand for what is right, for patient care, for what we're doing for them, policies and procedures and things like that. Why I keep saying that, because that's the Bible for each facility. So if you can influence some policies, you can influence to how to revise that where it gives patients more positive outcome. You just saved a bunch of lives, right? There's other ways in saving lives in healthcare, right? Besides pumping on their chest. So this is your inspirational nurse. I hope this video was super, super helpful. How to be a Christian in a healthcare system, in this system. And you guys, I hope you guys liked it. I'm going to keep the content going, keep the family growing. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I'll speak to you in the next one.